They said the hardest thing was not leaving the West, but coming back to face what you left behind. Caleb Montgomery did not ride into Purgatory Creek looking for forgiveness. He came to bury a father who never loved him and to sell the land that had torn his family apart. He expected empty rooms and cold papers from the bank. He did not expect to open the door of his childhood home and find a woman holding a loaded rifle and a secret that could burn the Wyoming territory to the ground. The wind never rested in this part of Wyoming. It scraped across the land like a blade, carrying dust that ate away paint and patience. Caleb pulled his hat low as his horse crested the ridge. Below him lay the Double M Ranch. From afar it looked tired and wounded. The house leaned into the wind, gray boards peeling like old scars. The fences sagged. The windmill cried as it turned, a lonely sound that followed him down the slope. Caleb had not been here in 10 years, not since the night of the fire, not since he left with a split lip and a promise never to return. Now his father was dead. A heart attack, the telegram said. A hard man dying alone in a hard land. He dismounted in the yard, the silence thick and wrong. Weeds choked the porch. Rusted tools lay half buried in dirt. He tied his horse and climbed the steps. When he pushed the door open, the stale air hit him. Dust and old tobacco filled his lungs. Then another scent cut through it, lavender and beeswax. Caleb froze. His hand dropped to his gun. That smell belonged to a past he had tried to drown. "Who's there?" he called. A woman stepped from the shadows into the light. She wore a black dress and held a shotgun aimed straight at his chest. Her eyes were green and sharp, older now but just as unbreakable. "You're trespassing," she said. "Lorena!" Caleb whispered. She did not lower the gun.
"I'm Caleb Montgomery," he said slowly.
"This is my father's house."
"Your father is dead," she replied. "We buried him 3 days ago." The words landed hard.
Caleb took a step forward. "I didn't know. I was states away. The man I knew wouldn't have stayed gone for 10 years, she said. "State your business or leave." "I'm here to settle the estate," Caleb said. "To sell the ranch." At that, something broke across her face. She lowered the gun and leaned it against a chair. "Jediah is dead," she said quietly. Caleb swallowed. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," she said. "He was a good man." She crossed the room and picked up a sealed envelope from the desk. She handed it to him. "Read it." Caleb broke the seal and scanned the page. His hands began to shake. The ranch was not his alone. His father had split it in half. One part to Caleb, one part to Lorena Bishop, with a condition. They must live on the land together for 1 year and make it profitable. If either left, their share would be lost. "He trapped us," Caleb said. "He knew you'd sell," Lorena replied, "and he knew I had nowhere else to go." Caleb looked around the room, then at her, then back at the paper. "I'll fight it," he said. "You can try," she said, "but the bank comes Friday. If we fail inspection, they take everything." "How much is the debt?" $3,000. Caleb felt cold. Then she said the name, Broen Hayes. Caleb knew it well. Hayes did not want money. He wanted land and water. That night, shadows watched the house. A shot shattered the window. Another tore through the wall. Caleb dragged Lorena down as darkness swallowed the room. Boots thundered outside. A voice laughed. They hid in the storm cellar as men tore the house apart above them. When the riders finally left, Lorena showed him the truth. A nugget of gold, found in the creek bed. His father had not been digging for water. He had been digging for gold. Before Caleb could speak, the window exploded again. The siege of the Double M had begun. Morning came slow and gray over the Double M Ranch. Smoke from the broken lantern still hung in the air, mixing with the smell of dust and fear. Caleb stepped out onto the porch with his gun in hand, scanning the empty yard. The attackers were gone, but their message was clear. They knew about the gold, and they were not done. Lorena stood in the doorway behind him, her face pale but steady. She had not slept. Neither had he. The past had caught up with both of them in one violent night. "They will be back," she said. Caleb nodded. Hayes doesn't scare easy. And he doesn't forgive. They worked in silence for hours, boarding the broken window, clearing glass, and righting what furniture they could. The house still stood, but it felt wounded. Every creak of wood sounded like a threat. When the sun climbed higher, Caleb saddled his horse. "I'm riding into town," he said. "I need answers, and I need to look Hayes in the eye." Lorena grabbed his arm. "That man is poison. If you go alone, you may not come back." "If I don't go," Caleb replied, "he'll think we're hiding." Men like him feed on fear. Reluctantly, she let him go. Purgatory Creek had not changed much. The same crooked buildings, the same dusty street. But the way people watched him ride past told Caleb everything. Word had spread fast. Trouble had come back with him. He went straight to the bank. Broen Hayes stood on the balcony above the tellers, dressed in a fine suit that did not belong in a place like this. He smiled when he saw Caleb, a thin smile without warmth. "Caleb Montgomery," Hayes said, "back from the dead." "Your men fired on my house," Caleb replied. Hayes shrugged. "The frontier is dangerous. Accidents happen."
"I'm not selling," Caleb said. Hayes leaned closer, lowering his voice.
"You will. The debt is due in 3 days. And without cattle, without profit, the law will be on my side." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Touch that land again, and I'll bury your men myself." Hayes laughed softly. "You're one man, and you have a widow to protect. Think carefully." Caleb left the bank knowing one thing. Hayes already had a plan. When Caleb returned to the ranch, Lorena was waiting. Her face told him something was wrong. "They cut the south fence," she said. "We lost cattle." Before Caleb could answer, the sound of hooves rolled across the valley. Flames appeared in the distance. Torches moved like fireflies in the dark. "They're driving the herd," Lorena whispered. Caleb watched helplessly as men on horseback stampeded the cattle into the night. Gunshots cracked in the distance, not meant to kill people, but to ruin them. By dawn, the corral stood empty. The ranch was finished on paper. They sat at the kitchen table with bitter coffee between them. The gold lay hidden beneath the floorboards, heavy and dangerous. "We can't win here," Lorena said. "Not with the sheriff bought and the bank waiting." "We can," Caleb replied, "but not from this town." He told her his plan. Cheyenne, the federal assay office. If they could sell enough gold or use it as proof, they could pay the debt. Hayes's reach did not stretch that far. "It's 2 days through Black Rock Canyon," Lorena said. "Ambush country." "I know." That evening, an old rider arrived, Jubal Early, a man who had once worked the ranch. "I heard Hayes was circling," Jubal said. "Thought you might need help." Caleb clasped his hand. "I won't turn it down." That night they loaded what little they had. Food, water, ammunition, and the gold, wrapped and hidden. Before dawn, the sheriff came. He carried a warrant. Not for Caleb, for Jubal. An old charge dragged from the past. "This is Hayes," Caleb snapped. The sheriff would not meet his eyes. Jubal handed over his rifle and smiled sadly. "You run now," he said. "Finish what you started." As the buggy carried Jubal away, Lorena felt the weight of fear settle deep in her chest. "It's just us now," she said. Caleb took her hands. "Then we ride together." They left that night, taking the narrow trail into Black Rock Canyon. The walls rose high on both sides, swallowing sound and light. Every shadow felt alive. Lorena held the rifle tight. Caleb drove the team hard. Then the road blocked. A tree lay across the trail. Gunfire erupted from above. "Trap!" Caleb shouted. Riders closed in from behind. There was only one way out. Caleb grabbed the gold and lifted Lorena onto his saddle horse. "You have to ride," he said. "If they get the gold, everything is lost." "I won't leave you," she cried. "You will," he said softly. "Because I love you." He slapped the horse, sending her up the rocky slope. Bullets flew as Caleb drew fire, standing alone against the canyon wall. Lorena looked back once, then disappeared over the ridge. Caleb fired until his gun clicked empty. Then the darkness took him. Caleb woke to pain and darkness. His head throbbed and his mouth tasted of blood. When his eyes finally focused, he saw the familiar walls of the Double M house. He was tied to a chair in the parlor. The room had been torn apart, drawers smashed, floors ripped open. Hayes had been looking for the gold. Broen Hayes sat in his father's old chair like he owned it. His coat was clean, his boots shined. Vargo stood near the window, limping, his leg wrapped in a bloody cloth. "You fought well," Hayes said calmly, "but you never understood the game." Caleb lifted his head. "If you're here, it means she got away." Hayes smiled thinly. "Gold is messy business. Hard to move, hard to hide." He pulled a folded map from his pocket and spread it on the table. Red lines cut through the valley. "This is what I wanted. Rail lines, water access. Your land is the key." Caleb stared. His father's obsession suddenly made sense. The ranch was not just land. It was the future. "Sign the deed," Hayes said. "And you live. And Lorena." Hayes shrugged. "If my men don't find her first." Caleb's heart sank. Then he saw it. A brief flash of light from the ridge outside the window. A reflection. A rifle scope. He smiled. "I'll sign," Caleb said. "Just give me the pen." Hayes leaned forward. The window exploded inward. Glass filled the air. Vargo screamed as he dropped to the floor. In the same moment, Caleb slammed his shoulder into Hayes, driving him back. The ink spilled across the papers, soaking them black. The front door burst open. Lorena stood there, dust-covered, steady, the rifle smoking in her hands. "Drop it," she said. Hayes froze. Minutes later, the sheriff arrived. With Vargo bleeding and the map on the wall, the truth could no longer be buried. Hayes was taken away in chains. His empire ended in silence. 3 days later, Caleb and Lorena stood in Cheyenne. They paid the debt in full. The gold bought them time. The railroad deal bought them a future. The Double M ranch was saved. Months passed. The fences were rebuilt. New cattle filled the pasture. The house no longer leaned into the wind. One evening, Lorena stood on the porch watching the grass move like water. Caleb joined her, placing a hand over hers. "You staying?" she asked. "I'm done running," he said. "This is home." The wind moved across the land, but this time it carried peace. What Caleb came back to sell became the reason he stayed.